The moment happened in the heat of battle, with the Miami Open final hanging in the balance and a sold-out crowd of nearly 17,000 fans on their feet. Aryna Sabalenka and Coco Gauff were locked in a tense third-set struggle when a voice from the stands shattered the concentration of the world number one. Mid-rally, a fan shouted "out" as Sabalenka's shot landed, a disruption that would have rattled any player. But what came next left everyone stunned. Sabalenka stopped mid-point, turned toward the stands, and unleashed words that echoed through Hard Rock Stadium. The cameras caught everything, the fire in her eyes, the frustration boiling over, the raw emotion of a champion pushed to her breaking point. And then, after the final point was won and the trophy was lifted, she did something no one expected. She stood at center court, microphone in hand, and
the stage was set for a classic. Aryna Sabalenka, the world number one, was chasing history at the Miami Open. A victory would make her just the fifth woman in tennis history to complete the Sunshine Double, winning both Indian Wells and Miami in the same year, joining legends Steffi Graf, Kim Clijsters, Victoria Azarenka, and Iga Swiatek. She had already dominated Indian Wells just weeks earlier, defeating Elena Rybakina in a thrilling three-set final. Now, with her fiancé Georgios Frangoulis watching from the players' box, she was one win away from cementing her place in tennis history. Standing across the net was Coco Gauff, the American superstar who had never advanced past the fourth round in her previous 6 Miami Open appearances. But this year was different. Gauff had fought through a nerve injury that forced her retirement against Alex Ayla at Indian Wells, defying her team's advice to skip Miami altogether. Now she was in her first Miami Open final, backed by nearly 17,000 fans who filled Hard Rock Stadium with chants of Coco. Her brothers, Cameron and Cody, sat courtside, their encouragement creating its own kind of chaos in the players' box. The match was a war from the first point. Sabalenka took the opening set 6-2 in just 37 minutes, breaking Gauff twice, while Gauff struggled with her serve, committing 3 double faults in the first set alone. But Gauff, who had spent years chasing Sabalenka's level, refused to fold. She battled through the second set, holding serve through the first 8 games before breaking Sabalenka in the 10th to force a deciding third set. Then, in the third set, with Sabalenka leading 3-2, the match took a turn no one expected.
Mid-rally, as Sabalenka hit a shot that sailed toward the baseline, a fan in the stands shouted, "Out!" The ball landed long but narrowly avoided going over the baseline, and Gauff returned the shot to continue the rally. But Sabalenka's focus was shattered. She had heard the call from the stands, a spectator trying to influence the match, to become an additional umpire. As Gauff eventually hit her shot wide, Sabalenka turned toward the stands with fire in her eyes. "Shut up," she yelled, her words echoing through the stadium. The cameras captured everything: the dirty look on her face, the raw frustration, the anger of a champion who had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to have a fan try to steal her moment. The chair umpire, Australian Tom Sweeney, immediately issued a warning for audible obscenity, but Sabalenka, after a brief pause, laughed it off and returned to the baseline. For a moment, the tension in the stadium was unbearable. Sabalenka was visibly rattled. Gauff, sensing an opening, pressed forward. But Sabalenka, who had learned long ago to channel frustration into focus, gathered herself. She held her serve, then broke Gauff again to close out the match 6-3. The sunshine double was hers. The trophy ceremony was supposed to be a celebration. Sabalenka had just completed one of the most remarkable achievements in tennis, the Sunshine Double, a feat accomplished by only 4 women before her. She had won $1.15 million, pushed her career title total to 24, and improved her 2026 record to 23-1. She had every reason to stand at center court, accept the trophy, and bask in the glory. But Aryna Sabalenka is not like other champions. When she took the microphone, she didn't talk about her record or her ranking or her place in history. Instead, she looked into the stands and said words that no one expected. "I don't know where you are, that lady that yelled, that hoped for the out," Sabalenka said, her voice steady but carrying the weight of the moment. "I shouldn't have been that rude, but come on, you cannot do that. Let's agree that we both were wrong. So sorry." The crowd erupted, not with the usual cheers for a champion, but with something deeper: respect. Sabalenka had just done something that few athletes have the courage to do. She had owned her mistake. She had apologized, and in doing so, she had turned a moment of anger into a moment of grace. She then turned to the rest of the crowd, her voice softening. "Thank you guys for an incredible atmosphere. You always bring incredible vibes in a full stadium for our final. Thank you so much." The message was clear. The fans who came to support, who filled the stadium, who made the Miami Open what it was, they were welcome. The fan who tried to disrupt her match, that was a different story. But even then, Sabalenka was willing to meet her halfway. The exchange with the fan and the apology that followed revealed something essential about Aryna Sabalenka. She is a fighter, yes, a champion, certainly, but she is also human. Someone who feels the pressure, who gets angry, who makes mistakes, and who has the courage to own them. This was not the first time Sabalenka had shown this side of herself. Throughout the tournament, she had been open about her frustrations. She had blasted Dubai tournament director Salah Talak for questioning her withdrawal earlier in the year, calling his comments ridiculous and saying she might never return to Dubai. She had revealed that she swears in Portuguese during matches because the umpires don't pay attention to it. She had joked about trying to impress Roger Federer at the Australian Open, admitting she was nervous playing in front of him. But the apology in Miami was different. It was not a joke, not a deflection, not a laugh. It was a genuine moment of reflection, a willingness to admit fault, a recognition that even champions can cross a line. The tennis world responded in kind. Fans praised her honesty. Commentators noted that her apology was as memorable as her victory, and Sabalenka herself seemed to grow in the moment, moving from anger to grace in the span of a speech. For the fan who had shouted out, the apology was a gift. With her victory, Sabalenka became just the 5th woman to complete the Sunshine Double, joining Steffi Graf, 1994, 1996, Kim Clijsters, 2005, Victoria Azarenka, 2016, and Iga Swiatek, 2022. Her 23-1 record in 2026 was a testament to her dominance. Her 3 titles, the Australian Open, Indian Wells, and Miami, had established her as the undisputed best player in the world. But the Miami Open final would be remembered for more than the scoreline. It would be remembered for a moment when a champion pushed to her limits, lashed out, and then, in front of thousands of fans, apologized. It would be remembered for the grace of 2 rivals, Sabalenka and Gauff, who pushed each other to be better and respected each other for it. It would be remembered for a player who, despite winning the biggest title of her career, found the humility to admit when she was wrong. Sabalenka's path ahead is clear. She will be the favorite at Roland Garros, where she has yet to win a title, the one missing piece from her resume. She will carry her 23-1 record into the clay season, her confidence soaring, her game at its peak. And she will.
Aryna Sabalenka did something unexpected at the Miami Open final. She won the Sunshine Double, yes, becoming just the 5th woman in tennis history to complete the feat. She defeated Coco Gauff in a 3-set thriller, defending her title and cementing her place as the world #1. But what the cameras caught was something else entirely. Mid-match, a fan shouted "out" during a rally, disrupting Sabalenka's concentration. She turned toward the stands and yelled, "Shut up!" a moment of raw frustration captured by every camera in the stadium. The chair umpire issued a warning for audible obscenity. The tension was palpable. But after the match, after she had lifted the trophy and stood before the crowd, Sabalenka did something no one expected. She called out that fan, not to shame her, but to apologize. "I shouldn't have been that rude, but come on, you cannot do that. Let's agree that we both were wrong. So sorry." It was a moment of grace that transcended tennis, a champion at the peak of her powers, admitting fault and offering an olive branch. And in that moment, Aryna Sabalenka showed the world what it truly means to be #1. Was Sabalenka right to apologize after the fans' disruption? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Rally Radar now for daily WTA news, match breakdowns, and stories that go beyond the scoreline. Because at Rally Radar, every day is match day.